Welcome back, dear viewers. You are still watching Arab Affairs, and we will move now to Gaza. Israeli airstrikes killed at least 25 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, including at least 8 in an apartment in the Nusayrat refugee camp and at least 10, including 7 children, in the town of Jabalia. Gaza rescuers say Israeli airstrikes killed 7 children from one family. We have the details.
Israeli airstrikes killed at least 25 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, including at least 8 in an apartment in the Nusayrat refugee camp and at least 10, including 7 children, in the town of Jabalia. Gaza rescuers say Israeli airstrike killed 7 children from one family. Meanwhile, Gaza Civil Defense Rescue Agency reported that an Israeli airstrike killed 10 members of a family in the northern part of the territory, including 7 children. Mediators have yet to secure a ceasefire after more than a year of conflict. Sources close to the discussion said Egypt and Qatar had been able to resolve some differences between the warring parties, but sticking points remained. The death toll of the Israeli genocide war has killed more than 45,000 Palestinians and displaced most of the population of 2.3 million. Much of the coastal enclave is in ruins. Elsewhere, Palestinian residents in Israel's occupied West Bank reported that Israeli settlers set fire to and vandalized the mosque, writing slurs and threatening slogans in spray paint on its walls. Black burn marks were visible at the entrance to the Muslim holy site in the northern West Bank village of Marda. The fire was put out before it could spread much further. The Palestinian Authority Foreign Ministry assailed the attack as the latest in a series of violations and crimes by Israeli settlers and appealed to the United Nations Security Council for help protecting Palestinians. The UN says more than 700,000 Israelis live among 3 million Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, lands Israel captured in 1967.
Welcome back, dear viewers. To shed more light on this issue, we are delighted to be joined over the phone by Mr. Ramzy Khoury, the Jordanian journalist. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Damia.
So, how is it possible to secure a ceasefire after more than a year of conflict between the Israeli forces and people in Gaza?
It's possible through a political decision. There is absolutely nothing that can be achieved anymore else than a permanent ceasefire. But the Israelis are not taking the decision, and the decision is there in front of the Israelis on their table. What is going on today, Lamia, is fascinating. They are destroying every structure that is around the Kamal Adwan hospital right now. They are continuing to attack civilians, and they are targeting civilians. And the question that the international community needs to ask is the ceasefire that is on the table, that is supposedly a ceasefire that is doable and most likely will be done before Donald Trump is in power in the White House, then why is Israel continuing to kill civilians? Is it because Israel wants to create as much emotional and physical damage to the Palestinian people before they end their carnage? Or is it because Israel still has aspirations for ethnic cleansing and full control of Gaza? This question has to be answered immediately, because this is the question that is going to answer your question of how possible is a permanent ceasefire. The second issue, Lamia, that is of concern, there is absolutely no reason for this to be an incremental agreement, i.e. to do it in phases. Israel is still talking about 3 phases. Why? The families of the prisoners, the Israeli families of prisoners, are demanding that their government do one package deal that releases all of their family members, and the families of the soldiers in Israel are demanding funds are taken out of Gaza because they are getting killed on a daily basis. Yet the Israeli government wants to do this in 3 phases. The Palestinians, of course, would like a one-package deal where everything is done and finished with ASAP.
Mr. Khoury, sources close to discussions said that Egypt and Qatar were able to resolve some differences between the warring parties, but still there are some sticking points which are unresolved. What is the effect of these unresolved points on the reaching a ceasefire soon?
It's ridiculous. The unresolved points are they change depending on whether Mr. Netanyahu wants to actually reach a ceasefire or not. So this is where the problem is. These are all obstacles that Israel creates in order to wriggle out of having to sit there and reach an agreement. But none of these are vital and huge and big and untouchable. Obviously, when the Israeli government, for example, Lamia, comes up with the principle that they declared previously, Hamas will not be allowed to rule Gaza. The Palestinian Authority will not be allowed to rule Gaza. The PLO will not be allowed to rule Gaza. Then who is going to rule Gaza after you pull out? They are putting obstacles that are unresolvable. So if this is, for example, is still a remaining issue, well, this is a remaining issue this is an obstacle that has been placed there on the table by the Israelis, because they are trying to make it as totally impossible to meet that criteria. By the way, even this issue, there is sort of agreement that between the Palestinians themselves regarding the day after and who is going to rule Gaza and how is it going to be managed. It seems that Hamas has accepted the idea or the principle that the Palestinian Authority or the PLO is going to be directly involved and is in control there. And this is, and here what I'm going to say now is what I suspect. What the Palestinian Authority and President Mahmoud Abbas is doing in Jenin is to prove that the authority is capable of running Gaza before they allow the authority to run Gaza. So basically what he's trying to do is to control all of the militias and the armed militias in the West Bank as proof of concept. So this is basically my suspicion regarding what's going on in Jenin right now. And it's really making the Palestinians very, very angry, because Palestinians are shooting at Palestinians right this moment, and that's not acceptable.
Mr. Khoury, the situation, the humanitarian situation is deteriorating, especially in the north. What's your take on this? How to secure the security or the aid trucks to the Palestinians or people in the north?
Gaza right now is very cold, and whenever winter comes along with it diseases, starvation. A United Nations report was talking about the lack of soap. There is no soap. So children in the north of Gaza right now are suffering on many levels. It's very cold. They are getting sick because of cleanliness issues. The water is not clean. The environment is not clean. Disease is spreading. But they are also suffering from starvation and dehydration, and it's a catastrophe by all means, according to all experts. It's a humanitarian catastrophe. But this is a catastrophe that has been intended to be as such. None of this is necessary, but Israel wants it to be this way. And this is where my previous question comes in. Why is Israel doing this? Is the idea to kill as many Palestinians as possible before this ends? Do they want to create a permanent physical and psychological damage that the Palestinians will not be able to live with? Is this going to really lead to peace, or is this going to lead to further violence in the future? These are the questions and the real questions that have to be answered.
Mr. Ramzy. Thank you so much, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, the Jordanian journalist. And by this, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of today's episode of Arab Affairs. This is Lamia Abdel Sattar. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more.